Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Now firstly, an apology for my last video of the SoarcerEee build. It was loaded up onto the tube but had to be taken down again, or it was deleted inadvertently, I should say. Anyway, I've reposted it. It's a slightly changed video. I've introduced another chapter into that on tools and glues. So if you think you've seen the first chapter, or the first video, sorry, go back and look at it again, because there may be some slight changes in it. Anyway, this next video is the second in the series of the build videos, and this is about the semi-completion of the one wing half, namely putting the top sheeting in place, the cap strips, the false leading edge, and the dihedral brace. So have a look at it, see what you think. Obviously comment as per normal below it. Anyway, enjoy the video. Right, so we now want to move on from our build, which was the lower part of the wing, and concentrate now on getting the lower D-box sheeting raised up and stuck to the false leading edge. Now what I'm going to do to help me with that is I'm going to use a bit of 1/4x1/4. It could be any offcut that you want, and I'm going to use that in conjunction with some lollipop sticks here, and I'm going to raise the sheeting up and hold it in place with the balsa. Like I say, it can be any balsa there, and I'm going to put, I don't know, maybe half a dozen of these along. So the first thing I've got to do is I've got to put glue onto the mating surfaces, obviously where it touches the ribs and the underside of this. Now, because the way in which the wing is laid out on the building board to face the camera, that's going to be a bit awkward because I'm going to have to do it from behind. Normally speaking, this would be facing me over the edge of the bench and I could easily get under there. But we'll give it a go doing it this way. I'm sure it'll work. An alternative, I suppose, would be to raise this up and then use superfatic and just run superfatic all the way along there, which would seep in to the ribs and the false leading edge. Applying that to the front edge and pushing it underneath the ribs as I go through. Yeah, you could use super glue. The only thing I would say with super glue is that you will be sanding the front edge back, and super glue can be quite problematic when you're sanding, so just be a little bit careful about that. But there's nothing to stop you using super glue. With the glue in place, you can do as I said, which is lever up the front edge, not too much. You don't want to lift the whole wing off the front of the building board. I'm just going to come down here, and you can see from behind when it is forcing the sheeting up to be in contact with the ribs. Any old scraps of balsa will do for this. Then just make doubly sure, looking behind, that the sheeting is in good contact. If not, just bring that balsa or that packing a bit further forward, and that'll have the tendency to lift. You only need to go under the front edge of that sheeting and lift it there, like so. And what I'm going to do, a little extra bit of security, I'm just going to pin that packing in place so that it doesn't move or slip out inadvertently whilst the glue dries. That's absolutely fine. All right, the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to cut away the inner portion of the ribs here so that I can slide the dihedral brace in So that slides through, you get the general idea there, and I'm going to do the same on that rib and the same on that one. Be a little bit more careful about this rib because it hasn't got the perforations in, it's 1/16 as opposed to 3/32, so just be a little bit careful about that one. Now that I've cut those pieces out, I can put my dihedral brace in there, which fits in perfectly. So the next thing I want to do is to glue that in. And again, sliding that in place. Snug fit there, just wipe up the residual glue and any bits of balsa, they can come out too. And just do it on the reverse side again, there. Now I know that that is in there really firm. And to reiterate, maybe a bit late unless you're looking at the videos before you build the whole thing, you may find it easier, and I can understand that, if you put your lower sheeting down first of all, stick your lower spar on, then stick your dihedral brace on top of the spar, and then cut these ribs and butt those up against the dihedral brace. I can understand that, and then you put the top spar down on top. Okay, with that in place and that raised, the sheeting raised to the ribs, that's all I can do on the wing now until it's dry. The reason I say that is because the next operation before I put the top sheeting of the D box in place is I need to chamfer this false leading edge. As I did for the underside, I need to do that for the top side, and of course I can't do that with all this in place. The glue having now dried, I can remove the pins. All the pins out. Yes, and that's stuck quite nicely there. As I said previously, you can take this wing off the board, but it's still a bit flexible until we get that upper D box in, which will lock it into place. Oh, and the cap strips to a certain extent, so we have to be a little bit careful. But I'm now going to sand let's get in front of the camera. I'm going to sand this down so that it maintains the profile of the rib there, so that I stand a chance of sticking the top sheeting down on top of the full width of the strip rather than just the edge of it. So I'll do that off camera. Now a tip here, when you're sanding to the rib, to avoid sanding into the rib, what you can do is you can apply masking tape along the front of the rib there, so that when you sand you will contact the masking tape before the rib itself. If you're careful, you don't need to use that. You can actually hear when the sandpaper hits the rib like that, and that's the time to stop. So I got that just about right. And the other thing I'm just going to do is just rub the sandpaper across there over the top of the spar, just to make sure. You can hear when it's touching the ribs, just to make sure I've got rid of any high spots there down the length of the wing. Should be pretty good. Yeah, so that's now ready to have the top layer of balsa put on the D-box. As I said earlier, you need to pin that wing down again to make sure it's firmly located, because we don't want to introduce any warps into the wing. So I'm pinning it through the rear of the bottom spar at an angle down into the building board, so that this can't lift up and it's flat all the way through. With that pinned in place and held firmly, what I'm going to do now is use my leading edge, or sorry, my top sheeting for my D-box. I'm going to line it up with the back edge of the top spar, and that's going to curve over to the front, and I'll pin it down along the front there. So first things first, put glue all along the top. With the glue applied to the spar, the ribs and the false leading edge, I can now get my top sheeting, line it up with the rear of the spar and the root rib there, and I'm just going to start now pinning this through to the top spar. Now I need to pin it down to the false leading edge. So I'm now going to go back through and pin the rest of these. With that all pinned in place, now what I want to do is put the cap strips on, which will go down, not those there because you've got centre sheeting going on there, but from here all the way down. Now the cap strips provided in the kit are longer than what you need, so you're going to need to cut to suit. But one thing I would suggest you do is you mark the position of the ribs there, because that's the centre line for your cap strips. So when I cut the cap strips, I line up the front edge, bend the back edge down, and instead of cutting straight down, I'm cutting at an angle back towards me, because obviously that's the angle of the rib. And if I do that, I know that I will get a nice tight fit, which this is. If I push that into place now, you'll see, well, you can't really see, but that is, I can assure you, that is a very tight fit. And the thing I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go along and see that that's the same all the way along. It should be, if you've done your measuring correctly and your building correctly. They should all be the same, which means I can now use this one that I've just cut. I can use that as the template for all of the others and cut them all in one go. I'm now going to glue those cap strips in place. So all the cap strips are in place now, glued in place. Just got to wait for those to dry. And for the, obviously the top of the D-box to dry. Then we can remove the wing and put the lower cap strips in place. And I'm not going to put the centre sheeting in place until I join both wings together. You don't have to do it that way. There's more than one way of skinning a cat, as there was with the dihedral brace, but that's the way I'm going to do it anyway. Well, I hope you liked that video showing the construction of the wing. If you did like it, obviously same things apply as per usual. Put a like down below, put any comments down below as well, and if you haven't already subscribed, please do so, because it all helps in the algorithms for my channel. Anyway, look forward to seeing you in the next video, which will be about really bringing the two wing halves together and nearly completion of the wing. So look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers guys, bye.